Hello everyone and welcome. Do you have too many friends in the Pokémon TCG community and would like to lose some? Or are you simply a control deck enjoyer? Well, if any of the answers were yes, then I have the deck for you. My name is Matitz with the Pokéslabs and today we're making a deck profile on Froslass Munkidori. So for our Pokémon we have 3 Snorunt, which evolve into 4 Froslass, which deal 10 damage onto each ability Pokemon after each round. To move that damage around, we also have 4 Munkidori. We have 3 Badoo in order to item lock our opponent, 1 Maractus to trap something in the active, and 1 Blood Moon Ursaluna as a late game attack. So for our supporters, we have 4 Arven, which allows us to find an item and a tool from our deck. We have 4 Professor's Research, which can reset our hand. And speaking of resetting our hand plus disrupting our opponent, we have 4 Iono. For our items, we have 3 Buddy Puffins. We also have 3 Night Stretchers, which can get our Pokemon back from the discard. We also have 3 Counter Catchers, which, because, well, we're behind in prices most of the time. We have 2 Pokegear, which help us fish out the supporters. 2 Nest Ball to get things like Munkidoris in play. 1 Ultra Ball. 1 Earthen Vessel to get the energies from our deck. And as the ace pack of choice, 1 Unfair Stamp. For our Pokemon tool cards, we have 2 Rescue Boards. We have 2 Bravery Charms as well. We have 2 Technical Machine Devolution to deal with Stage 2 decks. 1 Counter Gain, well, once again, because we're behind in prices most of the time. 1 Gravity Gemstone in order to trap something in the active way more easily. For our stadiums, we have 2 Artisans to search out the basic non-rule box Pokemon. And for our energies, we have 5 basic Darkness energies and 1 Luminous energy. So, a little bit about this deck. This deck is very painful to deal with when you're playing against it. That's why it's so fun to play. Because, first of all, you have the Badoos that can item lock your opponent. Second of all, you have the Munkidoris, which, after every turn, put 10 damage counter on each Pokemon in play that has an ability except for Froslass, which makes it also very hard to deal with because, well, the vast majority of the best Pokemon in the game have abilities like Charizards, for example, or Pidgeots and such. And also Munkidoris. That's why we have also Munkidoris, because of their ability. Once they have a Dark Energy attached, they can move 30 damage from any of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, that doesn't sound all that great, all in all, but when you think about it, your opponent cannot play item cards, you stall them as much as you can, put damage counters everywhere, and then you just take a 6 price turn and you win. Sounds simple, right? Well, unfortunately, it's not that simple, especially since there are some pretty bad matchups for this deck. For example, the first one of the worst, has to be, of course, the pure Dragapult, which doesn't have much abilities apart from the Dracloaks, and they don't rely on them as much, so it's not something very... a deck that it's easy to deal with, unfortunately for us, because we're mainly dealing damage to ourselves instead of our opponent. Another deck that it's very hard to deal with for pretty much the same reason, it's Hobbs Zacian. And additionally, Hobbs Zacian, or the vast majority of Hobbs Pokemon, are actually resistant to grass, meaning that not even the poor teeny tiny Badoo doesn't do any damage because of the resistance. So once again, very hard to deal with. And of course, any deck that runs Iron Hands, because they can initiate a 2/2 price race, and that's not very good for us since we rely only on single prizers, as you saw. However, this deck is absolutely brilliant into majority of other decks. The Dragapult with the Dusknoir lines, it's actually favored for us. Why? Because, well, the Duskulls are within the double Munkidori range, and once again, they rely on their Dracloaks way more than the pure Dragapult does. Additionally, kind of a 50-50 matchup is another big contender of the meta, and that is the Gardevoir. Why? Because, well, once again, not so many of their Pokemon have abilities, but almost all the time they put damage on themselves before we put it onto them. And another matchup that is heavily favored for us is the Terra Box, because, well, in Terra Box, every Pokemon has an ability. Basically, everything has an ability, and you can trap one of their, I don't know, Noctowls in the active, and you just ramp up damage with the Frostlasses, move the damage around with Munkidoris, and, well, take 6 prizes or 2 prizes and then 2 and then some. So yeah, this deck is actually insane into the vast majority of the meta. And speaking of how to play against the vast majority of the meta, you kind of want to opt going first with this deck, because, well, if you go first, the second round you can already evolve your Snowrads into Frostlasses and start item locking your opponents, or maybe cornering them with Maractus. So yeah, that's all for today. Thanks so much for watching, and catch you next time.